Please welcome to the stage, from Lunar, Head of Design, Kasper Svendsen.
Hi everyone, and everybody online. What a great presentation from Marla, huh? I'd like her as my empathetic leader. She was awesome. Good concrete advice. I'm so happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this for months, so I will just kick it off. My name is Kasper. I work as head of design at a great Nordic fintech called Lunar. And the absolute best thing about being head of design, and I hope many of you who have directs can agree that it is working with the best, brightest, and nicest team out there, right? Just having fun and creating awesome products, but at the same time also just recognizing that design does not happen in a vacuum. We are super dependent on everybody around us to make things happen, and sometimes to make things happen really fast. We try our best every single day to create some stellar experiences for our users. They comprise of both regular people, users, consumers, businesses, and then we also have a leg to the business that's banking services for anybody who wants to utilize our infrastructure to make lean and fast payments in the Nordics. We have a fairly simple mission. We want to help everybody thrive with money. We want to be the absolute best bank in the Nordics, and we are working as best we can to get to there. We've been at this since 2015. We're close, or shy at least, to 1 million users. And of course, what I'm most proud of on this screen is we got such high ratings, right? And a key component is always the design, the user experience, and our amazing support. And on that note, I want to deep dive a bit on the topic for today, on expectations. How we create them, how we help people meet them, how we potentially make people exceed them. And more specifically, the interrelations between people and data and how that affects expectations in general. But just turning the clock back a bit, I started in Lunar just a bit over 5 years ago. And as any good designer would do, coming onto a new team, I did a UX review. I familiarized myself with the app, like really trying to dig deep. What is the value proposition here? How do we work? But what I was most curious about was this particular screen, because I heard so many people talking about the sign-up or the onboarding experience, right? And we had this devilish screen that's called NemID. It's a public sign-on or a digital signature that we use in Denmark. There's a new one now, but at the time it was very popular, right? So you need this in order to sign documents and to do like confirmative actions and sign into public websites and so on. And there was just this very broad consensus at Lunar that everybody must hate this screen. Like, it doesn't work. When we look at the data, there's a huge drop-off when they get to this particular screen. Everything is running kind of smoothly and fine, right? And you get to this screen, and then bam, people are dropping off like flies. Not quite that, a bit dramatic, but at least you could see it in the data, right? So the curious designer that I am, I immediately went ahead and tried to investigate this, right? Grabbed the hold of a lot of new users, looked at them and observed them and interviewed them signing up for the very first time to try and understand what was the deal here, what was happening. And as they progressed and got to this very screen, it became abundantly clear to me that it isn't about this screen, and people actually liked it a lot. It's a very convenient way for a lot of Danes to do a lot of things and to sign documents in a good way. The thing was that we were breaking ground as a digital bank in Denmark, and people weren't necessarily expecting that, or they didn't know what to expect. We were also presenting Lunar as almost a financial service that was easy to sign up to, and then without much warning, you get hit with all of these KYC questions, know your customers, and people, of course, reacted to this, like, why would you need to know my name? I'm just looking up for this awesome service that I saw online or on Instagram. So the real issue wasn't necessarily the screen in and of itself, right? It was that people didn't build up the trust, we didn't meet their expectations, and to be fair, how you sign and what you sign were also a bit hard to actually read at this point, right? So we fixed that ages ago, but it just goes to show that if you want to be truly data-driven, you need to really understand both the quant and the qual part of the coin, right? Not only what people do, but also why they do it. To like truly understand their motivations, their anxiety, and yes, their expectations and how they go about your service and what they expect of it, right? So water under the bridge, long time has passed. From that time on, and a year and a half in advance, we went into this hypergrowth phase. So Lunar is a startup. Like, we are a startup in our DNA and our ways of working. And suddenly we were also a scale-up, and the organization changed from being originally very flat to having more of a triangular shape to maybe settling on something along the lines of this today, I believe. When I started, we were also a rather small design team, centralized. We were 3 people, including me, serving the needs of the organization. Again, it wasn't that big at that time, but that also changed dramatically, going to be a full-fledged, all possible skills within the design team, distributed across squads and colonies, doing our best work. And the reason why I bring that up, and also what I've experienced early on in my other professions, is that no matter how the organization change, we as designers do our absolute best work when we are positioned at the heart of the company, right where the action is happening. And all of you have a superpower. And I can reveal that that is not necessarily only that you're empathetic, but also that you are curious. We as creators, as instigators, as questionnaires, as people who are willing to investigate and drive the user-centric agenda, we ask questions. And when we are positioned in this matrix, we are allowed to, back to one of the topics of today, build a language. So not a language front-end facing towards the user, but a language you can use internally to align between different stakeholders. So whenever product managers, designers, legal, design, anybody involved with a stake in the product that you're building has to have a say and have a common alignment on what you're doing. So that brings me to this concept of mine I've dabbled a bit with. I call the glass bubble. It's nothing out of the ordinary or rocket science in any way. You can look at it as a cognitive bias or a translucent echo chamber. Call it whatever you want. But I tend to see this sometimes, that because we are so immersed in our work, we have a tendency to assume that everybody else has the same level of knowledge, because we just day in, day out talk about the same things, and we have expectations to one another about what we also know. So that is when, consider this for instance, you have an interest that might lead you to a particular study. So you learn a lot about this study. That could be information science, where I'm from. You learn about people and technology. You learn the practices, the methods. Then you get to a workplace. You work 8 hours a day talking with the same people, building up a terminology, using abbreviations, being on top of the newest trends, the newest tech, and everything involved, right? That builds up an expectation layer on how you communicate with your peers. And sometimes it can be difficult to acknowledge that that isn't the truth when you're building things for the everyday person who might not have the same experience as you do. So I'd like to shine some light on this with our product, the Lunar AI Assistant. We do a lot of different AI initiatives in Lunar, but this is a consumer-facing one. And I'd like to just highlight some of the challenges, but also the exciting insights that came out of working in this field. But first, I'd just like to ask all of you to reflect on this question. Do you remember the first time that you tried a really great ChatGPT? I really do. I remember it clearly. I was at the doctor's office waiting for an appointment, and I finally got through to OpenAI's ChatGPT solution. And I remember that blinking cursor and that input form that just screamed, "Put something in here." And I was like, what do I put in? And I ended up asking it to write me a story about a woman living on a mountain with a goat. It's an internal thing between me and my wife, but it just delivered. I was literally blown away. It felt like we've leapfrogged 2-3 generations in tech here in just that instance. I was pretty sure that was going to change a lot of things for us, right? It was so great. So I've been chasing that high ever since. And as Lunar is very pioneered by technology, we, of course, immediately went ahead and built a beta version of this and quickly pushed it to a lot of beta testers, about 500-ish, as far as I remember, to allow people to investigate how would it be actually chatting with a large language model about your set of transaction data. So very, very interesting, but it was also pretty clear that it wasn't a major success. We weren't seeing the adoption we hoped. We weren't seeing the numbers go up or people using it enough. And we got all the quantitative data right. It was telling a lot of interesting things, but it didn't really reveal the truth of why that was. So we went back and we said, no, we're going to do this in the right way. And luckily at Lunar, we have an agreement, again, a shared language on how we work. So don't see this as a linear process or a must-do checklist, but it's a way for us at least to, as a broader group, not just design, but everybody involved in product development, to agree on certain things that we need to know. And if we choose to skip some of these things, if we choose not to do that, there must be a really good reason as to why, and somebody needs to be accountable for making that decision, right? So it's different phases and steps. And also, I think it was kind of born out of design, to be honest. And the reason was that we really wanted to highlight that discovery is a much bigger part of the product delivery than just producing the thing and launching it. So we went back with this intention of really trying to understand what constitutes a great AI ChatGPT solution for a financial app and for our users. And being keenly aware that we had to look outside our tech bubble and our expectation bubble, right? So we did a rather large survey. This was back in January, February, where we asked a lot of people in the Nordics about AI and financial literacy and everything else in general. And this was the real glass bubble breaker moment for me, at least. Like 64% of people haven't even tried this thing. So that literally changes people's expectations, right? We also learned that young Swedes, unfortunately, have a really hard time. 50% feel financial stress at least once a week. Upwards 65% have struggles a lot with making a financial plan and sticking to it. And this was not super surprising, but still nice to have validated that the sometimes a bit archaic and complex language of the incumbent banks are difficult for people to understand and act on. We could see from the data kind of what people's intents were with the beta version we put out, because we have some pretty awesome data scientists. But even if we didn't know exactly the underlying reasons, like what was the motivations, the feelings, what was maybe the latent needs that we could look into and we could help people explore and make use of. So we set out to learn. We took that set of beta testers, we interviewed a bunch of them, and we put out a survey to many of the other ones, like just trying to get our immediate questions answered. We like to move fast, so having that was just super paramount for us. And I just had this question in the back of my head that I just couldn't let it go. I was asking everyone. I was asking friends, family, everybody at the company, my parents, any conversation I indulged in. I was kind of like, if you could ask a bank anything, or like, what would that be? Like, if it had to tell you the truth, if you could literally do this thing and it had to tell you something, what would it be? And quite surprisingly, and again, that whole level of expectations, that people really struggle to be able to articulate what that question would be and how they would put it forth to the AI assistant. Some of them wanted to get rich, and there was also things about invest, of course, but I'll come back to that later on. But it all boiled down to, through conversations and all of these questions, that what people really wanted was some basic insights. They were super keen to and had a desire to get insights about themselves, the finances, anything that could help them reflect, make better money decisions, improve their situation, even discuss. And that's when the penny dropped, right? Because that's great. It isn't great, people are struggling, right? But it's great in terms of this is our DNA, this is what we are all about. Lunar is about democratizing money. This is what we want to do. We want to help empower people. We want to help people make conscious decisions with the money that they feel confident in, right? So the vision for the AI gradually crystallized at this time. Not that it wasn't about financial literacy going off in the beginning, but it became very clear the direction that we needed to head with this thing. So again, back to the positioning of the designer as the facilitator, being able to like help the full company do the best possible work. We did a kickoff. And we at least always try to do that, because that is all about getting all the right people in the same room, right? It is about building a foundation, discussing what does a successful launch look like, really taking it from a business perspective also. Why are we doing this? Like, what does it matter? What do we know up until this point? Laying it all out. What does our research say? What does our competitor research say? What does new trends say? But like, again, also why that's a circle, right? Really honing in on what is the people problem here we're trying to solve. And then getting everybody on the same line. So, shared language. I'm a huge fan of Jeb Gotthelp's wonderful Lean UX Canvas. I don't know if you know it, but there's a recommendation also. He wrote a nice book on the topic. It is an awesome exercise in terms of trying to describe a solution space. But what I really, really love about it and what I use a lot when I try to align people on this thing is the bottom 3 rows here, right? So again, getting everybody from data science, products, legal, marketing, design, like everybody who we all need in order to actually push good products out into the world, get them to describe what do we believe, what constitutes success here, how can we align on that, and then flipping that on its head and saying, okay, what are the risks, what could make this project tank, how do we fail, what do we need to know first, what do we need to mitigate, and that is just the most excellent basis for jumping into experiments, right? What is the cheapest possible way to learn the next most important thing? I just love that saying because it says everything about moving fast. But it also tells the story that doing research, doing validation, doing evaluations of what you're doing doesn't have to be a huge thing. It doesn't have to be time consuming. It doesn't have to involve weeks of preparation and everything. It can simply be printing out a concept, going out into the street, guerrilla tactics, right? Visiting the local library. We do this a lot. I simply just call up people when they went through a flow or signed up for something just to have a conversation with them. It doesn't have to be that planned because we just learn so much every time we indulge and converse with our users. Another exercise that I'm a huge fan of, just going a bit pragmatic here, is what I call the future vision canvas. So again, getting that group of people from diverse backgrounds to really put words as to what they believe is a success. So what we do is that we look 6 months, a year ahead, and we say, this thing that we just launched, it was the best thing ever. It was a smashing success, right? Everybody's raving about it. The numbers are going up, the PR, the communication, like referrals are off the roof. And then what you do is that you bring it back and say, okay, then let's take it from today. What main criteria or things needed to be in place for us to get to that specific point in time from your perspective? Not just design, but like the full circle of people involved in creating a product. So that could be anything from we need to know the context of what you're doing, or it could be being really serious about addressing people's anxiety when it comes to GPT solutions and language models. It could be adding a voice feature, which we just dabbled with. And it could be a bunch of other things that were really important to people. And then you ask them to say, okay, based on this, you need to prioritize. And so what is exactly the most important things to you? And as I know everybody, our team, I guess everybody else just love this session, right? Where you get to really have fun and talk and chat and discuss and vote and like really honing in again, putting that lens on what are the most important things that we absolutely need to learn. And from this collaborative body of work, we were able to pull together some principles, some guiding principles that we knew that this future version or revamped version of the AI needed to have. And then we set about the next phase. So let's explore this thing. Again, let's try and put it together as fast as possible to get it out into the world and explore this. So first and foremost, we knew we had to have a great introduction to this thing, right? So not only do we need to talk to the participant and get their take on AI and so on, but like trying to get them into this like safe space. We had these like wavy lines, like the human breathing pattern, like from the old MacBooks, if you remember that. To like get you in, make you feel safe, presenting that this is a thing we made for you that can be confident, a safe space. We also were very aware that we needed to inspire very specifically, so not broadly, not just a cursor saying, ask me anything, because people don't know how to react to that. But like being very specific on what can you expect from this thing, what can you ask, how do you actually take actions with this assistant. Again, feeling safe, like we are all about trust and love, and we want to build on that. So actually pulling in the right consents for allowing people to read in the prototype testing so we could have a conversation about what does this mean What do you expect in terms of sharing your data and how we handle them? Like really emphasizing that your personal data will not be shared. This is between you and your assistant, and it will keep that way. Another thing was that we wanted to get people straight into it, right? They needed to, as soon as possible, start asking questions and try out using the assistants on their own set of data, their transaction data, what they had in the app, right? So we tried to create different topics to investigate what are good prompts. And I can tell you already now that the people like me definitely took the win. People were super curious about this one. Benchmarking yourself against others with a similar salary perhaps and living in the same area of the country. And of course invest as well. Those were the two winners. We even made a quiz. So you could basically ask it to quiz you on your monthly spending or your investment portfolio or anything else you want to learn about. And again, in that safe space. And then we knew that this shouldn't just be a product on the side that you needed to go fetch somewhere. This needed to be embedded in the core experience. We really wanted this thing to be part of the Lunar experience in general, right? So we implemented this feature of swiping up with 2 fingers, this pattern, and we actually put it in the introduction, so people have to do it to kind of like get that muscle memory and actually try it out and not just reading about it. It's kind of a hidden pattern, so we spent a lot of time figuring out if people could remember it, if they liked it. But the thing was that we didn't want a Clippy or chatbot icon obscuring the view in the bottom right corner, right? We wanted this thing available, but we wanted to do it in a fashion where it wasn't in the way. Proactive was most definitely what also took the win, right? So it shouldn't just be reactive. It shouldn't just be an input field for users to put into whenever they have a specific question. We wanted to reach out. We wanted to help you at the right time with the right information, help you take action. And of course, we knew that people would use this a lot for anything relating to support. So asking what your PIN code is or ordering a new car. So we might as well, from the very beginning, build this thing into support. And today we are seeing huge results from this. It's absolutely amazing because, truth be told, and at the end of the day, nobody wants to talk to a human if they have an issue they can solve on their own. And this is just a really neat way of doing it. And if you need help, you can, of course, escalate it, right? So all of that we put into this prototype, and then we set about investigating all of our principles and our hypotheses. Took it on the road, tested it with a bunch of people across the Nordic. And this is, to me, this is my favorite, absolutely favorite part of the whole product delivery process, whatever you want to call it, right? Where you get to hand something over that you put a lot of effort and sentiment into to someone who've never seen it before and just get that immediate reaction. And that as honest feedback as any interview can be, right? But we just learned so much from this. So with all of this data in mind, with the full collaboration of the team, hearing everybody out, understanding that we are a shared community if we want to succeed, we did a go-to-market plan. We had focus group interviews on what to call this thing. And we slowly rolled it out in spring. I can't exactly remember the date, but allowing for people to say hi to their new assistant. We even created this anthropomorphic little dude who could help you ask the question of how you can do better with your money, which could follow you around in different circumstances. And we just learned so much about what does prompt engineering mean when it comes to finance. And again, if you look at all other ChatGPT solutions, they basically cover the whole wide world. You can ask about cookies or how to canoe from New Zealand to Australia, for instance. We wanted to take like a really strong focal point on your financials and how to help you do better with that. And lastly, trigger-based. So we have a lot of different triggers set up so we know when certain things happen in your financial life. So for instance, landing at the airport, we can do things like quickly summarizing your trip. This is not necessarily something you wouldn't be able to do on your own. It would just take time. So this is a super convenient way for you to get quickly informed about how much you spent, maybe even how much you saved or spent on FX or ATM fees, right? Allowing it to be an actual conversation so you could deep dive on the data, maybe pull out where did you spend most of your money, and just adding that little something that you didn't already know, like preparing you for your next trip or letting you know that your daily spending in general was a bit higher than the rest of the or the last trip that you had. So, is it perfect? Absolutely not. Like, I have a backlog as long as from here to the Danish border on things we need to improve and things we want to get in. And as Marla was just talking about, really excellent talk on compromising. I just know that, right? It's such a hard feeling for a designer to compromise, but you have to do it. Because we, at least at Lunar, we are limited by time and resources. We are a startup. We need to act quickly, and we have many ongoing parallel projects. So also just recognizing when something is pretty damn good, because we are getting a lot of feedback on this, and people are really enjoying the conversations. And those that aren't great, we learn from. That's our way of going about it, right? So Marla had something similar. She called it pragmatic perfection or something like that. I kind of go with pragmatic excellence, like accepting that everything is not perfect, but again, just finding comfort in you releasing something to the world that actually people enjoy and use, even though when 11FS picked this as the Pulse Pick of the Week, I was such a doofus. I was literally cringing because I was looking at the title that snuck into production, the offset that was wrong on buttons, and just old technical debt, but the transition between modals and screens and so on, and that's just the lay of the land. But it was such a quintessential glass bubble moment because I have a lot of people out there who are really enjoying this and giving it a high rating. And just to finish off my talk here with. Because we get so much data and it's so fun. I mean, it's so fun to look at how people are using this thing. But Anita here, and let me just translate for those of you who aren't Danish. I heard Danish people speaking earlier, so I know there's some of us in the room. But Anita has been using our ChatGPT solution and had a really great time with this one. And she's just over the moon happy. This was a great thing. And what I want to highlight, even though compromise is super hard and it feels like sometimes death of 1,000 paper cuts, right? That you have to compromise and you have to go down. It's just that feeling. But just giving Anita's name, again in a Danish context, is a bit old, right? The way she articulates herself, or the way she misspells GPT multiple times. That leads me to believe, maybe, but that's a hypothesis, that she is someone outside my glass bubble. She is one of the 64% of people who never tried a really good ChatGPT solution before. And if I can just have the smallest of impact on her feeling more financially empowered, if I can just provide her a fraction of that feeling I had at the doctor's office when I tried a really great ChatGPT, I'm just as over the moon as her, and it's worth every single paper cut all day long. That was it from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kasper. Thank you. Wow,
I'll be here all night, so if you have questions, pull my sleeve. I'd love to try.
Yeah, you're doing my job now. So anyone who has questions from the audience, yeah, please raise your hands. And I have like a quick question from the remote, and I'm also very curious. How long did it take for you to build Lunar AI, like for this MVP that you launched?
So the first version, the more tech-driven, bit rushed version, that happened within, I think, a month and a half or something.
Oh, wow.
That's how we work, and we got an awesome engineering department, so they kick on. Yeah.
Inspiring. Okay, questions from the audience? Yes, please. We have here the mic, please, here in the middle.
Hi, just a quick question. Were you able to contain the large language model in such a way that it doesn't answer irrelevant questions?
Awesome question. I was hoping somebody would ask that. Very relevant. So I'm not a tech person, but I'd like to just paraphrase my good friend and colleague Rasmus Lindegaard, who run this whole project, that first and foremost we need control. We need to be absolutely certain that this thing doesn't break the rules. It doesn't present something that could get us or them in trouble. So we take that extremely serious. And we need that control before we can really scale it and before we can start using it as a differentiation meter, right? But it is still a beta, and it will remain a beta for a while. But yes, control is like topmost priority. We wouldn't move ahead if we were unsure if it could provide you the wrong information, make you invest that poorly, right?
Thank you. One last question from the audience. Anyone? Oh, yeah, please, Sarah. Yeah, we will bring you.
It's coming.
Don't worry.
Cool. Yeah, I like the question that you had. Like, if you could ask a question to your bank, what would it be? And it looked like people didn't know what to ask. Why do you think that is?
I think it's a question you've never had before. So you have to start by like kind of realizing this might be a new opportunity. And it goes back to a conversation I've had a lot of time also with my fellow colleagues, but we can't just Google this thing. We can just put up a blank input field and expect people to use it like Google. But if we tried that, we really need to be a lot more guiding as to what you can do, and then hold their hands and then show them the path on how to use it. So it is really hard, and I didn't know the question myself either. I was also like, make me rich, or tell me what stock to invest in, and do so quickly, please. What are the lottery numbers for next week? But it is a super hard question. But like Google, I think over time people will start to use it and adopt it and make it part of their lives and their way of searching information. And being in that space.
Thank you. So we could ask the question during the break. So now we're going to have a break. So thank you so much, Kasper. Yeah, for 20 minutes. If you have more questions, please. Sorry. Thank you.